Good afternoon. Natasha Robinson here. Legalese, please. It's kind of a pop up because I said I was going to talk about what are called end of life decisions. And so, to be true to my word, I said I was going to come on briefly and talk about what I was going to talk about. Before I begin, I want to bring attention to the scams that are occurring very rapidly. And these scams come in the form of emails, phone calls, and text. There has been an increase in folks trying to get information from us so that they could use it for means that we do not authorize. For example, last week, I got a phone call from Amazon that told me that someone had used my Amazon account to purchase an iPhone, and they wanted to know if I had authorized this purchase, and if not, here are the things to stop it from occurring. And so, of course, after asking several interrogative questions, then the person got frustrated and then hung up on me. And when I called actual Amazon, in fact, they told me that this scam had been occurring rather frequently, and here were the steps to take, or they provided me rather with steps to take to make sure I was not victim to a fraud. Um, I know that there are other frauds that have occurred with Social Security where someone calls and says, hey, if you do not call this number right now or provide us with X amount of dollars in payment, then you could be prosecuted by the federal government. I have known people who have gotten, and when I say people, I know people, I'm saying I am people. I have gotten letters of information from what appears to be or what is the unemployment office saying that my claim has gone through and that I will be receiving money. I say all this to say be very vigilant and very aware. Make sure that you are monitoring all of your accounts online as well as accounts that are managed by way of email, by way of phone, and by way of written correspondence. Make sure that you are changing your passwords frequently, not to something that someone can automatically figure out. For example, an anniversary or birthday or your mom's maiden name. Those are typical things that scammers figure out or they try to figure out. Also, be mindful of these data breaches that are occurring with these companies where our information is being sold to third parties or our information is being tracked. I am an iPhone user. And so on my apps now, I see this default menu that talks about grant the app access to track. The truth of the matter is, we've always been tracked. Think about how you have looked for something online or through a social media app, and then all of a sudden, what you were looking for or what you were searching now comes in your news, in your timeline or in your news feed. That is not accidental. We are being tracked, and we are being monitored about where we go, how we shop, what we're interested in, so it can continue to be fed into our stream of consciousness. But aside from companies watching our spending habits, our reading habits, scammers are watching them too. So please be proactive and make sure you do not share information with anyone that can be compromised. Make sure that you are changing your password to something that you remember constantly. Never, ever, 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 ever give out your social security number or identifying pieces of information, because that is the number one or one of the main ways in which who you are can be linked to those type of pieces of information. Okay, so make sure that you are vigilant and mindful about that. The other thing is, I've been getting these text messages, and these text messages will be, let's see, hey, let's see, hey, your stimulus check has been withheld. Click here to dispute. Something like that. And what happens is, if you click that link, you are not taken to where you think you're being taken to. You are instead being hacked and being scammed. So please, please, please be vigilant, be mindful, and be aware of what is going on so that you will not be taken advantage of. Okay, Carly says, I had the same thing happen with Amazon phone iScan. Yeah, it's a mess because they catch you off guard. And you're sitting there thinking, who in the hell is trying to get my stuff? And meanwhile, you're talking to the person who is trying to get your stuff. So they're very slick with it. Many of my friends are getting hacked. Yeah, it's unfortunately, I guess it's that time where people are like, okay, well, defenses are low. Let's go ahead and do what we need to do. Hey, BJ, how you doing? Yes, make sure that you verify who is talking to you, and that, hey, Bishop, how you doing? Make sure that you verify who you are talking to. And if you can keep them on the phone long enough, now I'm not saying that answer every call that comes your way. Some things you could just look at, and just answering the phone or clicking the text will throw you down a rabbit hole. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that if you're just answering the phone innocently, and then someone starts talking to you, you can do a couple of things. One, you can hang up. Two, you can get identifying markers of who you talk to, when you talk to them, what was the number from which they were calling, and then you can report them to the consumer fraud department in your state. I know that anytime something like this occurs and I've not shared information, I call the actual retailer. So in this case, I called Amazon. You can also call Illinois Attorney General's office, because they have a a consumer fraud department. So you have options. But I am telling you in advance, do not share your information with anyone over the phone. When I was a victim of employment fraud, I was minding my own business. And it was actually a legitimate letter from the Illinois Department of Employment. I know that's not what they're called, but that's what I'm calling them now. And they told me that I was approved for a employment claim and to look for my bank card in the mail. So there were two things that were going on. One, I was like, am I fired? Because I don't remember anyone in my HR department saying anything to me about me being on unemployment. And then secondly, once I realized and got verification that this was a fraud, the second thing that I was worried about was, can I catch my bank card in time? And the reason why I was concerned with that was because whoever made this fraudulent claim had my address. So at any point, I was thinking maybe they were waiting for the bank card to show up in my mailbox so that they could use it. And when I tell you I stocked my mailbox like it was nothing, I just sat by my window and I just waited until the mail person came. And then once they came, I immediately intercepted the bank card. I had already called the bank and told them I didn't make that claim. I had already called Illinois Department of Employment Security and told them I had make that claim. I had already made a police report. So these are some of the things that you can do if you find yourself in a situation. Okay. Oh, I'm glad to see you, and I miss you too, Bishop. Carla says, someone is using my mobile phone number. I receive texts all the time directed to them. Phone company said they have no record of the person and could not figure out what to do about it besides changing my phone number. That's a whole mess. That is a whole mess. I feel like companies are involved in our everyday lives until they are not. Um, what I would say is, call the, well, you've already got a new number, but I would say, yeah, definitely call the mobile number. And if it's something where are being harassed or something like that, make a police report. You don't know who the offender is, but at least you are on record saying that you try to stop it. Hey, Miss Lucas, how you doing? Thanks, Natasha. It is truly important to read whatever comes asking for questionable information. Also, don't be greedy and think you can get something for nothing. Certain government agencies never call. Know that. Stay watchful, careful, and honest. That is correct. Hey, Andre, how you doing? Good to see you, brother. That is correct, Miss Lucas, because, and let me tell you something. My next point was, do not feel or stay in embarrassment, guilt, or shame. And the reason why I say that is because some of us, myself included, have been targeted by persons and feel as if there's something that we did wrong or something that we failed to do, and now we are some type of idiot or things like that. That's not the case. The reason why scammers are proficient is because they're slick. They're supposed to be slick. If you could catch a scammer right off guard, if everyone had that ability or intel, then there wouldn't be any scammers because you would know right off. But apparently, they are getting to a particular number of people, and I want to make sure that you are not part of that number. That doesn't make you less intelligent, doesn't make you dumb or anything. It just means you believed in someone who tried to use your information to help them and hurt you. So do not feel any guilt or any shame. I can think of several instances where I've had people who, because they were either advanced in age or because they were considered to be ill or sick, that scammers, when they looked at the totality of all of their documentation, saw their age or saw their hospitalizations, and then they used a threat technique where they would tell people, look, if you don't do this right now, you are going to have a warrant out for your arrest. And so to compound what the person is going through with their illness and then add to that possible incarceration, that can scare anyone. And so then you have those persons that are like, look, I'm just trying to make it from that day. Here's the information. Please leave me alone. I just want to be compliant. And I am saying to you that while I understand that intention, these persons are not in your best interest. They don't care about your best interest. So make sure that if it is the type of organization like Social Security, or here's a big one, the IRS. The IRS is not going to tell you in a phone call they're going to arrest you. They're not going to tell you, please provide us with your Social Security number so we can get the stimulus checks out to you. They're not going to do that. So just take a breath. You can get their information, or you can hang up and then turn over their information to the local authorities or to the parties that I described earlier. But please, 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 please be careful. Okay? Please be careful. And sometimes it may mean you switch up your routines. Okay? Because another thing that is happening is people's personal items that are being delivered to them in terms of packages. They are also being taken. I can think of a time where I got into it heavy with someone in my family, where I told them the only people who could use my address are people who live at my address. I don't want your credit card statements coming here. I don't want your job applications coming here. I don't want anything coming here. The only people who could use my address are the people who live at my address. And I was so ticked, I told them, I will call the United States Postal Service and tell them that you are engaging in mail fraud. Now, try me if you want to. Okay. And sometimes that may seem to be, the hard line, but I'd rather be hard and free than have the type of boundaryless situations and end up in some foolishness. Okay. So monitor your information. Make sure that it is only used for the purpose that it is supposed to be used for. Okay. Hey Moni, how you doing? Good to see you. Carla, you says, yes, I've been contacted by IRS too. Yeah, it's just a whole bunch of foolishness going on. And so that's why we have to stay vigilant. And that's why I am saying to you, this is not an issue about you being naive or taken advantage of or anything like that. This is about protecting your information, protecting your data, and being vigilant about where your information is being used. Okay? So that is the first part of what I came on to discuss. The second part that I came on to discuss has to do with what are called end of life decisions. Life decisions. And I put end of life decisions in quotes because if you are of the any type of faith tradition, there may be some faith tradition say that death is a part of life and blah 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 blah, or you may be part of a faith tradition or belief system that says that you don't ever really die, you just change form in the way that water changes form from steam to ice. That is how our matter changes. So I want to provide a wide enough space to acknowledge all of that. There are those of us who believe that once you take your last breath, that is it. There are others of us who believe that we are reincarnated. And so when I say end of life, I'm using that in quotes. What I am saying is, regardless of what you believe or what you don't, I want to talk about what happens when you are declared to be dead and what decisions you can make beforehand to alleviate the decisions that your family and your friends will have to make afterwards. Okay. Now, excuse me. I give the disclaimer that my specialty has been in and continues to be in criminal defense. I do not specialize in wills, in trusts, in estates, in estate planning. So that's not what you're going to get from me. What you're going to get from me rather are practical tips to think about when deciding what to do when the time comes, because the time will come. All right. And what led me to this train of thought is the collapsing of the Florida building, the condo building that collapsed in Florida, where you had persons who were where they were supposed to be. They were there legally. They weren't trespassing. They weren't breaking any laws or anything. They were asleep. And for some, when they woke up, there was a huge, mind-blowing pile of rubble, of stone, of metal that surrounded them. And some of them, as if you've been watching the news, you will see that the death toll continues to increase because they have over 100 people who have not been accounted for yet. And when I saw that, I mean, my heart broke because I can't even imagine that happening. And yet it did. Now we are now learning that that was through, negligence and other legal claims that had not been addressed by the owners of that building. But out of that, I thought about what were to happen if something were to happen to me and I was unable to speak, if I were unable to move, or if it was my time and I died. My first priority, other than to myself, is always to my daughter, my 4-year-old. And I want to make sure that she is well taken care of in the event that something happens to her mother. Now, I know in certain circumstances, in certain communities, we don't like to talk about death. We don't like to talk about dying, because if we have that conversation, then that means for some people that you are trying to interrupt the present with the future, and you don't know what's going on, and you're not going to kill me. Why are we even talking about this? I've been in conversations like that, and I have witnessed conversations like that. But I also know, in the adage of the 21st century, sometimes it's better to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I am a good and huge proponent of trying to have these discussions in a loving and unrushed fashion. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have this, uh, uh, um, you're going to have this conversation, at least with yourself, if you have a loved one who passes and they leave no instructions, no directives, no protocol on how to proceed. Or if you have someone who all of a sudden has a medical issue and they are unable to speak or to move. And you have to figure out how to operate in a way that is in line with what they would want. Okay. So the other day I was asleep, and I promise you, I'm a person that believes in ancestors, and I promise you, they woke me up and was like, you need to get this information down. And I was going back to sleep, and I immediately felt this, no, get up now and do it while your mind is alert, while your mind is fresh, and while information is readily accessible. And so what I did was I made a long list that starts off with, if you are reading this, know that I trust you and I love you, and something has happened to me to prevent me from operating on my own behalf. And then I began to go through a list of, if something should happen to me, this is where my life insurance is. This is where, or this is what my banking information is. This is what my passwords are to log onto my work and my personal computer. This is who is bank over my mortgage. This is my doctor. And then I went into, this is Grace's information. This is what you need to know about Grace. In the event I cannot communicate that conversation. And if you ever want to know who you truly trust in life, this will be the time, because you don't want to give this information to people who you know are a little shady, little untrustworthy, and then you give them this information. Next thing you know, it's discussed, it's talked about, it's published. No one that was in my circle of trust do I not trust. Okay, I trust them implicitly. In fact, I had to give them a disclaimer and tell them, before you read this, understand I am giving you this information and nothing is wrong with me right now. Because some of them would be like, hey, you in the hospital? You got a diagnosis? And I'm like, no, I'm absolutely fine. But I'm sending you this information while my mind is lucid, while there's nothing going on with me in the immediate time or in the long-term time. Then that way, if something should happen to me, no one has to try to figure out, okay, where is Grace? Where do I need to pick up Grace? Or I need to have access to Natasha's bank accounts because I need to still pay the bills that she has while she is incapacitated or she is deceased. What I'm suggesting to you is that you don't want to have these conversations, or rather, you want to have these conversations while the person who you are advocating for or assisting is alive and well. A lot of times in my legal experience, I have seen people who have asked for power of attorneys, which are documents that allow them to act on behalf of their loved ones or their friends while their friends are incapacitated. So what happens is you have to hurry up and rush to get things in place and bring on all of that additional stress and that additional worry that comes with making sure, am I taking care of the person in the way that they would like? So for example, in 2007, I became the power of attorney for my grandfather, William Robinson. And for 4 years, I was William Robinson, even though I was Natasha. I was acting on his behalf. So if he went into the nursing home, I had to do what's called a spin down, which means I had to get rid of all of his assets and all of his income so that he felt within a particular spectrum to qualify to live in the nursing home under public aid. I had to clean out his house. I had to write a living will. I had to go over with him what's called a do not resuscitate or DNR order. All of these type of things that I had to do. And this is what really threw me. I had to prepare for his funeral and he was still alive. So there was a condition that said part of your spin down is you have to prepay for the funeral, for the you have to prepay for the funeral, for the burial, and for like the programs and any other thing. And so I remember my grandfather and I, we made a joke out of it because he knew very well what he was going to be wearing, where he was going to be buried, the order of his service, the eulogy, not the eulogy, but the obituary. We had discussed all of that while he was alive and lucid. And I was very uncomfortable about that. And he helped me to become comfortable with it because he said, you know, putting head the way it's looking, you're going to have to be in charge of all of that. And so I remember after I went to the funeral home and selected the casket and, you know, just all of those little things, I went back to the nursing home and I was showing Granddaddy Rob and I was like, ain't this nice? You're going to be looking mighty sharp, you know, and that's the way we kind of broke up the tension. Because, and I don't remember how old I was at that time. I had to think about it. But it was something that I was not trained to do, but I was learning in time. I was 33. You know, sometimes my math fails me, except if you go into prison, I can calculate that real quick. But sometimes other things, you know, I'm like, okay, well, how old was I? I was 33. Okay. So, in addition to having those conversations, definitely seek out those type of webinars or presentations by persons who specialize in wills, trusts, and estates. Understand that if you die without a will, that is called intestate. And that means that all of the assets and all of the personal items that belong to the decedent are now divvied out by the state in which you live. So if I die without a will, then it's the state of Illinois who would decide who goes to what. Now, naturally, because I do have a daughter, most, if not all of my things will go to her, but there could possibly be a wait or some time, because if I don't take the time to allocate what is going to her, then that delay could happen. So, you know, just different things to think about. With life insurance, I'm not here to tell you what type of life insurance to get term, whole. You got to talk that over with your agents. But what I will say is that you do need to have some life insurance, because you never know how life will, you know, turn. And next thing you know, you are in charge of trying to funeralize somebody, if that's the word, funeralize somebody. And you have to have what we have probably seen is these GoFundMe pages, or just asking the community, help, can you help bury this person, or take care of this person? And there's no judgment on that. I am saying that if you can allocate the money that you would for one thing and switch it over to life insurance. Okay. I have no problem in telling you, Grace has a life insurance policy on me. She doesn't know it. But in the event that something should happen to me, she is going to be taken care of, because you got to pay off the house and student loans and all of that type of stuff. And if something should happen to her, I have life insurance on her. Okay. And that is an expense that I don't like to pay. But by the same token, I understand that life can flip and switch at the drop of a hat, and I want to be prepared. I do not want to bequeath to my daughter the legacy of debt, the legacy of unpreparedness. I want to be able to know her. I want her to be able to know that even though her mother may not be with her in the physical realm, that I am with her and that she is well taken care of based upon the decisions that I make today. All right. So, just like I said, a couple of tips that I have thought about legally in terms of protecting yourself from scammers and protecting yourself by making some decisions that can help alleviate the burden and the stress on your family members. All right. So make sure you take care of that if you can. I challenge you, maybe that is something that you want to work on for this summer or definitely by the end of 2021. If 2020 has not taught us anything else, it has taught us to be prepared as best we can because life can change in an instance. So, excuse me, I have a little cold. So that's all I want to talk about today. I promised that I was going to come on and talk about these things and these things only. And so that's all I have. So feel free to share. I try not to give specific legal advice. I try to be very general in what I discuss because one, it varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction and state to state, and from family and person to family and person. But I did want to talk about these things while they were fresh on my mind. All right. So I do hope and pray that you have a great day, a peaceful and productive day. And I hope that you have a peaceful and productive week. If you have not already read before, myself and Legalese Please, we are going on social media sabbatical. And so I will not be back online live until the month of September. So I wish the best for you and your loved ones and your family. If you would like to continue to watch past episodes of Legalese Please, this is our YouTube channel, http ://bit.ly/Legalese Please. You could also go to the search menu in YouTube and type in Legalese Please. And then all of the topics that I have discussed under the heading of Legalese Please is there for your free viewing pleasure. Okay. All right. So with that, thank you, Moni. I appreciate it. I know you all will be great and be good at whatever you're being good at. And I will see you all in September. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day and be at peace. Bye-bye.